Hello and welcome back to the ID Boxing Preview Show with me, your host, Rob Tebbutt. As always, just like to remind everybody before we get started to please drop us a like, a comment and subscribe for more boxing content. Now that's out of the way, I am delighted to be joined this week by Andy Clarke and the only Welsh sportsman you're going to see on your screens for the next couple of weeks, Barry Jones. How are we doing, guys?
Good, yeah, very well.
Well, better than I was last night.
What happened last night, Barry?
Well, some prick put a fucking picture of me on Instagram. What was it called? Twitter. Was it one of those? Like of me on the floor when Freitas knocked me on the floor with a Welsh flag on my face and an English flag on his face. Like an Englishman's going to knock me on the floor. Fuck's sake. Ridiculous.
I don't know who did that, but it sounds bloody hilarious.
He's some mad, yeah.
Yeah, some man he must be.
Yeah, anyway. You know, it looked to me, because it wasn't like quite accurate, so it looked like maybe some sort of, like, it would have been good, but like the guy's chubby fucking fingers. I probably couldn't get on all that, couldn't do it correctly, you know what I mean? I don't know who did it, like. But either way.
Prince Charles, by the sound of it.
No, hang on a minute. What I'm trying to say is.
King Charles. Sorry.
King Charles, yeah.
Well, he's got notoriously chubby fingers, hasn't he?
I did a show in Dubai this weekend, and they did anthems, and I went, oh. But they did God Save the Queen. I know, which is really insensitive.
Bit behind the times.
Yeah, but what I'm going to say is, you had pitched me on the floor. I got up, though. That I was like, I got up. So the whole impression was that was me finished, like Wales on the floor now. But I got up.
Well, it's not the end of the.
I didn't win, so you know me. So
no,
and actually,
Wales
football team were closer on the scorecards than my fight.
Yes, it was the inter-ID boxing derby last night, which of course was won by England. But anyway, Andy, going to come to you first. We've got a lot to get through today. We have done the preview show slightly later than we would usually do it. So we're going to be doing previews only, not reviews. We've got a lot to crack on and get through. Starting with, of course, the WBC Heavyweight Championship of the World. It's Fury-Chisora 3, but don't tell anybody, particularly not the people who make the posters. Andy, are you excited?
I think I will be increasingly as the week goes on. When I thought about it at the start of the week, I wasn't exactly full of adrenaline about it, but I know that the closer we get to fight night, I will be. And we know what we're getting with this. No one's really pretended at any stage that we don't have an overwhelming favourite in this fight. And I don't think I've spoken to anyone who doesn't pick Fury. It's just a case of how things will go down, what will happen, what will the event be like, what will the attendance be like. That's what people are talking about mostly. And in those situations, you just never know. It might sneak up on us and surprise us what happens on the night. Not to the extent that Chisora will beat him, but it just might be that it's better or more competitive than we think it'll be. It may well not. It might turn out to be exactly what we think it will be. But just every now and again with these kinds of things, Barry's chuckling, but every now and again with these kinds of things, sometimes when we think we know what's going to happen, and we're that sure we know what's going to happen, you can just get a little bit of a bump in the road. And maybe Fury just takes him ever so lightly. Maybe Fury does decide that they're going to stand in the middle of the ring and try and belt the shit out of each other, which is what he said at the workout the other day. Because if he does decide to do that, something a little bit unexpected might happen.
He still wins.
He still wins.
If they do that, he still wins.
I'm not saying he doesn't win, but I'm just saying we might get something a bit more competitive or a slightly off the script that we're expecting.
To be fair to you, that was good. That's like probably the best sales pitch I've heard for the whole fight.
Well, I'm covering it for TalkSport. So.
Oh, there you go. I know there was an angle somewhere.
No, but genuinely, sometimes when we're not... I remember, it's not the same thing, but I just remember really vividly, whenever I go into a fight and I feel like I know what's going to happen, and I just remind myself of Madison Square Garden and AJ against Ruiz, where we spent a week not even talking about Andy Ruiz, talking about Deontay Wilder, talking about anything apart from him. And I remember walking away from that just thinking, I'll never make that mistake again.
Oh, maybe, but then you can. I understand that, I do, but you can match anyone with anybody. Then, you know. So let's put Jake Paul in with Lawrence Okoli, because you never know. No, I mean,
no, you do. We do know.
The boxing is the most unpredictable of sports, and it's heavyweight boxing, which is even more unpredictable. Of course, I understand that, but this if Tyson Fury loses this fight, shame on him.
Yeah,
you have to say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't have to say it. No, I understand. No, I don't blame you for for being very diplomatic about it all, because you have to be, but I don't have to be. Unless TalkSport need me, then you know, I think it's a great fight. If they don't, it's shit. Pretty much. But it's not a fight that excites me at all. And the build-up's going to be better than the fight. And the fact that they're selling it on, you never know. War-Chisora, I don't know about this War-Chisora thing, to be honest. Chisora's, he is a very reactive fighter. One of the the most reactive fighter we've had in this country since Nigel Benn, where he's at his best when he's hurt. All he knows to do is to throw punches. Chisora, when he's out, he can be lazy and he can be totally outboxed, quite comfortably. I think he can be outboxed, but when he's hurt, he's at his best, like a Nigel Benn was. He's not as good as Nigel Benn, but that sort of scenario. So, he's as tough as they come, but that shouldn't be the criteria of being a champion of the world. And I think I've been battering the whole thing about it, and I don't want to be seen that I'm just anti-BT or anything like that. Tyson Fury's allowed a voluntary defence. Chisora's just beat Pulev, who was supposedly top 15. So
he wasn't.
No, was he?
But carry on.
Yeah, but so theoretically, on paper, they're doing nothing wrong. The fight's fine. But to charge all that money, and I don't begrudge anyone getting a walkover fight or an easy fight. If the guy's in the top 15 in the world, which Chisora probably is, somewhere around the line. So it's a fight that's allowed. There's nothing problem with that. But they should take a hit on the money. And they would say, shut up you, or whatever. And I understand that. But we shouldn't be paying over the odds for this. It should be on BT. And then it's a fight I still don't want to see. But I'll watch it. But I'm struggling to pay for it. The only reason I'm going to pay for it is if I get any work next week to talk about it. Why would I want to pay for that? It's a fight I've seen before.
Yeah, I think you make a good point, and what you've said there about the Andy Ruiz
I think
fight,
I do as well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Andy Ruiz was a good fight.
It's the only point the Welsh have got this week. But anyway.
No, that's wrong.
Oh, no, didn't you draw with... Who did you draw with?
With the USA.
Oh, right. Okay.
Just like you lot did.
Anyway, football, who gives a shit? I didn't even watch the game. But anyway, what you mentioned there about Andy Ruiz is true. Like, that became kind of the rallying cry for the mismatch, I felt, after that, where it was like, well, you saw what Andy Ruiz did. I remember I was in Vegas 2 weeks after that for Fury versus Schwartz. And that was part of it, where everyone was like, well, you saw what happened to Joshua the last couple of weeks, and it kind of became a trend. If we'd have seen Anthony Joshua beat Andy Ruiz twice before, then I think that would have kind of changed things.
Yeah, I don't bring that up, and I didn't bring that up because I think that Chisora is going to beat Fury. It's just, for me, it was a lesson in don't think you always know what is going to happen.
Oh, yeah. I've been thinking what if Chisora just does something somehow? How fucking stupid will I look then when I'd be going, this is just not a fight worth watching?
Yeah, I just think there's a possibility that it could he's not going to win, Chisora, but that it could end up being a better watch than that. It's possible. Yeah. That is always possible.
No, it's not BT's fault, because Sky started it, pay-per-views, and whoever started, but the substandard that we have to pay for, because fighters are earning more money, which is great for fighters, but I don't think that we should have people who can't afford the pay, and not just because of the times. I mean, it's before that. No, Eddie Hearn have said the same thing. I'll be careful now because I work for Eddie as a lovely guy.
but this is a record price as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an equal record price, which was the same price as Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk, £26.95. I think at the minute, I think pay-per-view, I mean, we're talking about Eubank Jr. Smith later on, so I think pay-per-view is going to come up quite a few times in this. It is, times are hard, and it feels like we're missing out on a lot of fights and getting kind of served up fights that, nobody's asking for, really, and being asked to pay for them, which I think is
but this
is kind of, they work both together. It's not just that you're not getting the fight that you want; you're getting a fight that you don't really.
Yeah,
want. You have to pay for
the not getting what you want aspect here is quite key too, because what we thought might happen, well, I know you didn't, but what we were led to believe could happen was Fury-Joshua, and this is not that.
No, by a long way, this is not that. And look, it's kind of when the fight was announced, I kind of thought in my head, and my big concern was that we were going to get a lot of kind of panto style tables going across the room and that sort of stuff. And I didn't want to see that. But what we've ended up getting is kind of like a testimonial vibe, is how I've kind of
like a piss take,
which I think in hindsight is actually worse. I don't like at the minute.
It's like it's almost like they're going like, well, we're mates, we know what it is. Like, and I can't really beat him, but I'm going to go and have a go. To be fair, which is all right. I'm not a fan of his in any whatever boxing, outside boxing. I don't know him, but I don't think we'd be friends. And let me say that much. But the one thing I do admire about him, not admire, that's a strong word. understand about him, I think, is that he just says what at least he says it. He's not. I don't think he acts that way, and then someone else outside. Some people can act like a dickhead on telly, and they're nice people, and then they wonder why don't people like me? Because you're selling yourself as a horrible person, or the other way. Because I know some lovely people on TV. Once the camera comes off, they're horrid. But and you see that, don't you, constantly, like. But
you do.
But I think with Chisora, he is what he is, and he's like, this is what I am, and put up and like it or don't like it, because he talks with the money all the time, and he rubs it in people's faces, and fair enough, because he's getting paid it, and he knows he's having a write off. He knows he's not worth what he's getting. He probably don't feel that, but he's not. But he's got it, and I don't begrudge him. I don't begrudge any people earning money. I wouldn't turn it down. And you just wouldn't. But
it's a shot at the heavyweight title, and it's.
But this is like their best. They're just going, we're getting paid for you. We're getting paid.
I mean, we saw yesterday where like Fury and Chisora, they're at the workout and they're like grabbing each other and pretending. You think like if this was kind of in any way a quote unquote serious fight, that wouldn't happen. You wouldn't have people putting arms around necks, and it's a very strange vibe, and I'm not sure it's what we really need at the minute. Look, I mean, we run a boxing news outlet. The interest in the sport, it needs picking up. In the last kind of, I'd say probably 3 or 4 months, which directly coincided with the launch of ID Boxing, but we'll ignore that. We've not got the big fights that we're looking for. We were always talking about, Spence Crawford, Fury-Joshua.
This is ID Boxing.
Yeah, this is ID Boxing. There we go. Anyway, Fury versus Usyk and what have you. So that's not good for the sport. And worse so, you're alienating fans further by asking them to pay record sums at a time when nobody's got any money for fights that, I think even Eubank Jr. versus Smith, which we'll come on to, it's a very good fight. I think I would have been able to kind of carry on with my life if we never saw it, though.
Yeah, I completely understand what you're saying. And I've been talking to a few people about this recently, and I do think boxing has got a need. Fights getting made and fights not getting made, that's as old as the hills, really. But ultimately, the quality of the fights that we get, that is what makes the sport more attractive. What happens inside the ring is what it's all about. And when you have a fight like this where it is a little bit too friendly between them, I agree. I don't think that helps. I don't think it helps anybody, because when you're looking to kind of package a sport and maybe bring in new viewers and new fans of the sport, there are things that you can do. Like we had a Sunday show last weekend, for example. Thinking outside the box with things like that, I think that can really, really work. But what you can't ever do is try and change what the actual sport is inside the ring. You can't do that. You can't try and be all things to all people. And I would hate to see a situation where you even remotely go down the road of people looking at it and just thinking, well, this isn't a real fight.
Yeah.
And they might look at that Saturday and think that, because they're too friendly with each other, they might think, well, there's a bit of an agreement here maybe, and this is all a bit WWE. We cannot have that.
But I also think they're long enough in the tooth to be able to switch it on.
Yeah. That's not what we're going to get, but it might look like that.
I mentioned Adam Cattrall. I don't know Adam, never really spoken to him, but all he does is slag boxing off. I don't think he's a real boxing fan. Right, and I'm not digging him. But he clipped this up and looked like I will. But I don't think he's a massive boxing fan.
Make a note at a time.
He's always slagging boxing off, and I watch. I don't listen to their podcast, but I see little clips they put on social media, so it can maybe be put out of the context. He's always slagging boxing off. When there's something wrong with boxing, he's on it first, and he's big thing this, and he compares it to the UFC all the time, and it makes me angry. I go, well, you always slagging boxing off, but then the points you make, I can't argue with him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I almost dislike him for that, because all you do is slag boxing off.
It's all like the truth hurts type.
Yeah. But it's all you do though is slag it off constantly, and then I go, but you're right.
Yeah.
But it feels like this is my sport though. I'm not saying it's his sport as much as my sport. It's more sport more than his sport, but but it is his sport. He works in it like we do, I'm like, you're always digging it out. But it's easy to dig out, isn't it? You can't, how can you not? I'm doing it. No, it's okay when I do it. It's not when he does it. But I just only say that because I saw something last night. He put something on I've seen something through Nick Pete. I follow Nick Pete on Twitter, not Adam Cattrall. But then, but it's always Adam, because he comes up with good points and he's loud and it's just as he don't like boxing. But I think he doesn't like the way boxing is.
Yeah, that's
But
what it
but
is.
we actually none of us do really.
Yeah.
But and so like
There's things that we all change.
He slags it up, but he's right, and I hate it. So like Mitchie, it's that. It's all there. So I don't know whether I admire him or can't stand him. I don't know. I don't think he is.
Very conflicted at the minute.
You know what I mean is, but I remember watching. Cause I was watching it angry. Think, what's he on about? All the time something goes wrong, he's the first one to pipe up. But everything he said is spot on, and that's boxing for you. I think that's where we are. And same with pay per view. It's one of the only sports that can con you into paying for it, because I'm not paying for this Saturday, but Saturday afternoon I'll pay for it. I know I will.
Yeah, we're the suckers who will always keep coming back. We'll always keep paying because it's just kind of what we do.
Yeah, but it's not fair.
It's not fair and it's not great. And we're in a.
But it's not the worst pay per view we've seen. I'd tell you that much.
No,
One
it's
of
not.
them.
It's not.
But it's not the worst.
The golfing quality between the fighters is vast. I mean,
It's ridiculous. Like
there are other fights that are probably lesser worthy because of the scale in which they are. We've had, even Chisora White 2, where that was a non-title heavyweight fight. That was pay-per-view, but that's a lot closer than Fury and Chisora, particularly after seeing them.
I wasn't happy paying. I wasn't happy paying
fights.
for Fury and White. I didn't think that was pay-per-view worthy. I didn't. I mean, before the fight, I just didn't think it was a really competitive contest. Never seen it that way.
The rallying cry is, it's just something that we've heard over and over again, is that if you want to make these fights, then they have to be pay-per-view. My answer to that is don't make them.
Well, look at
no.
Yeah, that's one solution.
Apparently, Terence Crawford's getting $10 million for boxing David Evanesian. Good for him. Wow. But that's the problem.
That is the problem.
He's getting overpaid for that fight, which is a good fight, but it's one with a massive favourite. Evanesian's good, but Crawford's special, and so it's a huge. It's a really slight mismatch. If they say that much, and he gets paid that much for that. Oh, are they going to fight Spence? Because he wouldn't get no more for Spence, less for Spence. Because how can you sell that? Like they was digging out Eddie Hearn for what he's saying about that fight. Are you going to sell that fight? It's a massive in the boxing world. It's huge, so I think he would sell. But outside of the boxing world, no one would care about it. Everyone loves a heavyweight.
But what we seem to get in boxing regularly is it's almost like clockwork. Somebody will come along every couple of years with an enormous pot of cash, with no real idea how to spend it, and massively distort the market from where it should be, to the point where we never don't have a distorted market. Nothing ever really seems to settle down. Certain companies will just do things the way they've always done them and stick to what they know and hold the line and pay what they know will be viable and feasible for them. But they're surrounded by people who are just running around, throwing money around. And we kind of, it never ends, does it? Because this company with Crawford Avanesian, they're the latest. I don't know who they are. I don't know where they've come from. There is no way in a million years they can be doing anything other than losing fortunes on that fight. And for what?
Yeah.
You can't. It's difficult to get your head around.
But if you're all in and you're in for the long haul, then like Sky never made a profit for years, did they?
Yeah,
and sports in general, because the investment was going to be a lifetime investment.
Sky would have lost a load of money on that all-female show because they went for it.
No, but I mean, Sky Sport, the channel, never made money for like 15 years or something, I think, apparently, because they spent so much on it, even though they had to buy all the rights for everything. So probably saying with BT Sport, they had to spend all the money out.
But it's so expensive.
Yeah, and in 20 years' time, they'll get it all back and they'll keep going on forever. But like BLK Prime or something like that, they're called. Unless they're in it for the long stretch.
You really have got to dig in and be in it for.
But this fight Saturday, it's a fight that I don't see how it can be. Fury literally has to fall asleep, and then he's still a favourite. Like I can't see it. I think Chisora is better, is gamer than he has been when they boxed the second time, when he was having some horrendous fights, to be honest. The copper box, some of those nights in the copper box, he kept us head till 2:00 in the morning. It felt like that. He did. But he's money motivated. So if he thinks he's getting paid less, he won't do anything. I think he almost made some of those fights. He made him go the distance, I feel, because he don't think that Warren was paying him enough. And this one's like, no, this was how can he turn this down? If he gets $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, whatever he's going to get for it, I don't know.
The number reported is 2 million.
That's just 1.7 million too much, I think. I do. I think he's well overpaid, but good luck to him. You know, that's what I'd say.
Fury said recently, he kind of, in typical Tyson style, he did the press conference where he talked up Chisora, and then somebody said to him, "Do you think he's a better fighter than he was when you boxed him the second time?" He said, "No, of course he's not. He's got more miles on the clock, and he's older."
Yeah.
I think it might have been Bob Arum or somebody. It was one of these promoters from over the years where he said, "You talk up the bad ones and you put down the good ones when you're a boxer. If you're fighting a great fighter, you tell everyone he's useless, and if you're fighting a bad fighter, you tell everyone he's great."
Yeah.
Sell pay-per-views. I think Fury maybe got his wires crossed for that one, but that's enough of us three moaning about pay-per-view prices. Well, for the time being anyway. We caught up with the WBC and lineal heavyweight champion Tyson Fury a few weeks ago, and here's what he had to say about fighting Derek Chisora this weekend.
Tyson, there was a negative reaction online to the fight in hand. I was wondering your thoughts on that.
I have no interest in all that. You know, it's going to be a great fight. We're going to sell out 70,000 fans, and we're going to give the British fight fans a hell of a war. It's all in the name, war. Remember that.
From when you and Derek last fought,
Yeah.
how much of his career have you followed?
I've watched all of Derek Chisora's fights. I watch them all. I'm a big fan of Derek, and he usually puts on a very good fight against everybody, apart from me. So yeah, we'll see. Listen, he might chin me, put me out in misery. Good luck if he does. What can you do?
When you were looking at potential opponents, what made you settle on Derek Chisora?
Because he's a British fighter living in this country, and it's always nice to put my money in the pocket of somebody living in my country, and it brings good value to the public, and people are very familiar with Derek Chisora, so that's why we chose Derek.
So on that note, Tyson, some people have questioned kind of why we couldn't have allowed for maybe a little bit more time for maybe the AJ fight to happen, or Joe Joyce said he would have fought you if it was later in the year.
Well, it's not later in the year, is it?
Was December 3rd set for you?
We only had 2 dates. We had 26th of November and the 3rd of December. That was it.
So you didn't want to fight on another day if it was presented?
Show me the money. How much, where and when. That's it.
So that was Tyson Fury. I think we discussed this, Barry, around the time where the fight was initially announced. His reasons are, he's the best available, and he wants to keep the money in the UK and give his fellow compatriot, a payday essentially. I mean, there's no dancing around what he said. It's there for people to see. And
Well, I don't know. It shouldn't be. If the WBC allow it, then go for it. You're not going to take an easy fight for maximum money. I think you can't blame him. Though I do think you have some sort of responsibility as well, a little bit. But, why would he want to take hard fight after hard fight? He should be mandated to do that as a champion of the world, I think. You're allowed an easier fight, I understand that. And this is it, This is it. But I thought White was it as well, to be honest. So, and that's no disrespect to White. I just think Tyson's head and shoulders above. And to be fair to Frank Warren, when this fight was announced, he said, no, everyone thinks it's an easy fight for Fury. But Fury's better than everybody. And he is.
he had some options. He had some options at the WBC top 15. Of course, we were out in Mexico at the convention. We spoke to Mauricio about it. It was good.
What did you do when you were in Mexico? And
what did you do while I was in Mexico, Andy?
What week was that?
I was
It's a big building up to the 12th. I was
2 or 3
I was getting
relaxing.
I was getting my coats out ready for the winter. Was it good?
It was warm. It was warm.
Nice.
Yeah. As you can tell, I spent all.
How many of you went out? You all went out, didn't you? It was like a Christmas holiday. You all went out.
How many of us went? 5?
5. That was nice.
5? 4.
That's
4.
That's good.
Four went out. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
I came here to do a pod and no one was here. What? Go on.
And Mauricio said that he supports. I mean, I'll tell you what. Let's run the clip. Mauricio Sulaiman. Here's what he had to say about Tyson Fury fighting Derek Chisora. On Tyson Fury, he's boxing Derek Chisora, a trilogy bout on December the 3rd. That's a fight that has come under a lot of scrutiny and a lot of criticism back home. The first 2 fights between Tyson Fury and Derek Chisora were convincing wins for Tyson Fury, particularly the second fight. Derek Chisora is somebody who's lost 3 of his last 4 fights. He hasn't fought under the WBC's banner since Dillian Whyte in December of 2018. Explain how he gets ranked as the WBC in the top 15. He had the win over Kubrat Pulev, but I think it's fair to say that hasn't gone down very well. Tyson Fury being given the opportunity to make a voluntary defense against somebody that not only has he beaten twice, but somebody who wasn't ranked by the WBC and hasn't fought under the WBC's banner since 4 years.
No, Chisora is a fighter that has presence in the division, and he was ranked by the WBC. I will be happy to give you the breakdown of where he has been ranked, but he has been ranked for many years within the WBC. When he defeated Pulev, he entered the top 15 rank. So a champion has obligations, which is fight the mandatory defense, but they also have the benefits of being a champion and to do voluntary defenses. To criticize Tyson Fury that he defeated Wilder, White, and then to do a voluntary defense, I believe it's being a little bit too demanding on a champion who has had great activity against great opposition. Every champion makes voluntary defenses. And I support him. I support that fight. He could have just waited and because he tried to do Joshua. That's public. I saw that. I was witness that he wanted to fight Anthony Joshua. He wanted to fight Usyk. Usyk was not ready by the end of this year because he just had the rematch with Joshua. So to criticize it is not fair. But I understand we all want to see only the great fights. But those take time to build, and he has all the rights to make a voluntary defense. And Chisora is a fighter with a punch. He will be an interesting, I don't understand, they criticize, but they already sold out 60,000 tickets or maybe already more. So it's something that we support.
So that was Mauricio Sulaiman defending the WBC heavyweight champion Tyson Fury. You know, he said that when you've had Deontay Wilder, Dillian White, if you choose to have a voluntary, and look, let's clarify that it is within the rules. He's had his voluntary. Yeah. He's entitled to he's had his mandatory rather. He's entitled to a voluntary defense, but he has ended up with somebody in Chisora who, despite what Mauricio, you know, his memory sometimes is not the best. He wasn't ranked by the WBC in the top 15. Neither was Kubrat Pulev. He beat Kubrat Pulev, who wasn't, again, ranked in the top 15, and then magically appeared at, I think, 14 it was. But, yeah, not a surprise that Mauricio would of course, defend the fight because he sanctioned it. But it is within the rules, Andy. Does that do anything to kind of, I guess, quieten the naysayers? Us three being sort of the main three.
No, I mean, it won't, because people will have their opinion and they're absolutely entitled to it. But I didn't really have any problem with them doing this when the fight was made, because he wanted to fight again this year. He always made that really clear. The fight against Joshua was kind of rumoured and hoped for, but then didn't happen. The chances of it happening, when you look at it in retrospect, were always small within that time frame. And then you look at who is the best person available if you're going to put it on pay-per-view and put it in a stadium. And the best person for that definitely is Chisora, because it's Brit versus Brit, and you could try and sell that. You can't sell it to us that easily because we saw the first two fights. But I remember going to the press conference and thinking, for the wider sporting public, and whether we like it or not, they're the ones who really matter for these big fights, who might just buy the pay-per-view off the back of, War Chisora, he chucks tables around, Fury's this crazy character, they'll kick off at the press conference. Yeah, I'll watch that. They're the ones that matter. I think they felt that, you know, this would be a easy enough fight to sell. I think one thing we've forgotten in the middle of all of this that has maybe been underestimated is the World Cup.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just completely swallowed up everything that happens around it, which it always does. But I think it's easy to forget the extent to which it does, because it only happens once every 4 years. And if you're... Yeah, it's right in the middle of the World Cup. Yeah. So this week I expected things to really ramp up, and they might still, because we've got a couple of days to go, and it is a fine art, this. But I think that's a hell of a thing to go up against. Yeah,
it certainly is. And just while we've got, I've got the WBC top 15 rankings here, which is what I put to Mauricio Sulaiman. Frank Sanchez, Otto Wallin, who of course has already boxed Tyson Fury, Filip Hrgovic, who's recently been mandated for the IBF, Michael Hunter, Ali Eren Demirazin, who's not going to fight Parker, Dempsey McKean, Ajit Kabayel, Zhile Zhang, Martin Bacoli, and that's about it.
They're all better fights. They're all more competitive fights than this one. More competitive. but you can't sell them.
But you can't sell them.
Sure.
That's
Like
it.
Makhmedov, yeah,
You can't sell them.
They're better. Some of them are better fights, but yeah, they're not going to sell.
And it's a sell, and that's fine. And he wants to fight this year, and I'm glad. I want to see Tyson Fury out. He's a joy to watch. I mean, the Tyson Fury who was negative but very clever. He was good to watch. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But the Tyson Fury now who has a go is even better to watch, and I enjoy that also. So I want to see him. I'm glad he's boxing in December. I'm glad he's boxing Saturday. Over the moon. But not charging 26 quid for it, 27 quid for it. No, he has to take a hit. If you want to box early and there's no one available, and this is what the options are, then you have to take a hit, a massive hit. And so there's, what's his name? Lerena. You want a chance to box for the championship of the world when you're not really deserving, but you're on the fringes, which he is. Let's be fair to him, he is. And because he hasn't gone away, you've got to give him credit for that. And he's rebounded tremendously well. So, but listen, you want to fight for the champ as a voluntary defence. But you're going to have to take a little bit less money than you used to. But you could be champion of the world, Derek. How about that? You're never going to get this opportunity again. And Tyson, you want to box now when no one's available, just to keep you busy and get you out there against a fight. Really, it's a glorified sparring session for you. A guy you beat, going southpaw for most of the last fight and stopped him. And you probably do that again if you want to. You're going to take a hit on the money this time. But it don't matter. You get you out there, build it up, and then the big fight next year is huge.
Is this all forgiven if we get Fury versus Usyk, let's say March, April next year, as people are talking about?
Yeah, I think so. Sports fans, we have short memories. I tend to be quite kind of glass half full about things and look at what we could get or hopefully what we will get, and we do get quite a lot of what we want. I mean, it would be better if we got everything that we wanted, but that's not realistic. I mean, one thing to kind of wonder about with this is that the pay-per-view debate becomes so perennial, really, because these fights keep getting made and they keep getting put on pay-per-view, and presumably enough people buy them that they do enough business for people to keep doing it. But at some point, you'd imagine the market will crash. And could this be it on Saturday? Maybe the attendance won't be up there because it's in December and it's outside and it's during the World Cup.
Yes.
Maybe enough people won't buy it for it to really work. And maybe then people will start to think, because the pay-per-view did disappear for a while 10 years ago. People forget that, but between 2010 and 2013 it was Hey Harrison, wasn't it? And then it didn't come back until Froch Kessler in 2013. Things generally go in cycles. We generally speaking, people don't kind of learn from what happened before. You get something that makes money, and you keep doing it until it doesn't, and then you might have to have that fallow period again, and then you start again. Yeah. I was watching a program about the financial apocalypse in 2008 the other day. It was a film actually called The Big Short. Really good film. And they say at the end of it, I don't know when they made it, but it was at least 5 years ago, so quite a long time after the event. And they say at the end of it that basically the whole thing that had caused this massive crash in the first place, these subprime mortgages, had already reappeared, just called something else.
Yeah, they changed the name of it.
Yeah, they just changed the name, but these things were back.
Synthetic.
And at some point, what happened then, it will happen again.
That's the fear that I have with this fight being on pay-per-view in the World Cup. As you say, you've got Eubank Jr versus Smith, which again, think we'll all agree that's a very good fight.
Cracking fight, yeah.
But is it a pay-per-view fight in January as well? Which again, we're going to come on to that later. And my fear is that we're at the kind of threshold to that now, and that's obviously not great for the sport. We're already, I think we all kind of live in the boxing bubble, and people who are watching this are probably the same. But it is, it is a niche sport. It's not a mainstream sport, and you're further kind of putting it behind paywalls and putting it on apps and away from the eyes that help the sport grow.
Well, Andy's already said it, and I say it all the time. People going about whether they complain about commentary or fights or fighters or whatever they think. Like, boxing fans are in. We're there. We're going to watch it anyway. Yeah. So whatever goes on, we watch it. Even if it's crap or good, we got us. They're not looking for us. They're looking for the others. So
that's it.
That's why all this Jake Paul stuff and all that, they don't care about us. If real boxing purists are crazy about it, no one gives a shit about you because you'll watch it anyway. It's the other stuff. It's the other people. So that's what pay-per-view is. And that's why that's why heavyweights, because everyone wants to see big guys punch each other and don't want to see two little guys who are brilliant by the way.
And the expectations do seem to have been lowered as to what you need to do in terms of a number of buys for it to.
But I can
for
swallow
it to make money.
I can
For the
swallow
price
you.
up,
I
you
can
less
swallow.
price.
I can swallow Eubank and Smith. I'm not going to be happy about paying for it. It shouldn't be a fight that we have to pay for. But I can swallow it because I know it's a good fight, and I know it's a competitive fight. But this one, I don't see it. This one, it probably ended up being really good fun, actually. And I sort of, it's a funny thing about it is like I don't want to pay for it. I don't think we should pay for it. I think we're being really ripped off. But I hope it's successful. I don't want it to bomb in any way. I don't want the sport it to hurt the sport.
exactly.
No.
That's
You know what I
kind of
mean?
where
If it
where
bombs-
we are now.
No, that's it. No, you're right.
No, all these BT get involved in boxing for one thing because they want to do pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Because boxing's a pain in the ass for any production, any TV company to get involved with boxing. It's a pain in the ass because it's not like Man United where if Ronaldo don't play, I know we don't play for him anymore, but for instance, the big star don't play. They still got other players to play. The team still plays. You base a whole boxing show on the main bill, two guys.
Yeah.
So the things that can go wrong, if that goes wrong, the bill's crap, and that can happen.
Or it doesn't happen at all.
Yes.
And they've spent a ton of money on the promotion
well,
of it.
we've seen
the
it now
TV.
with Ben and Eubank,
Yeah.
the sons, of course. And that
I
didn't
remember
happen.
Fury Hay back in the day.
But they don't spend a fortune on promoting that.
Twice.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
spend a fortune on promoting that, and it goes thing. And ITV don't, that BBC don't get
Yeah.
involved with it. ITV don't want to know because it's a schedule thing. You have to worry about.
No, that's it. That's it.
So
I mean,
you don't want it to fail.
No, I absolutely. I don't want that stock market crash. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's happened once before. It can definitely happen again. It's just I find it hilarious how people just look at the that can't happen again in all sorts of walks of life, and you just think it definitely can.
You have someone like
Definitely
Frank
can.
Warren. You have someone like Frank Warren who's been around more than anybody in the sport in the UK, and he's seen the ups and downs of everything.
Yeah.
I mean, from an extreme level. Let's be honest. The man's been shot for God's sake, and he lost money on the London Arena. Lost fortunes on that. He's bounced back better than anybody ever in the whole history of the sport. So he'll know something's going to happen one day. It's going to crash again, but I don't mind because he's ridden it out before.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So there's no man who knows more about boxing and certainly how the business works.
Well, it's strange, isn't it? Because the fact that things go in cycles and mistakes, if you like, or trends aren't spotted, and the same things happen again and again. In one way, you can look at it and think that that's a bit odd and a bit kind of depressing. But in another way, you can look at it and think, yeah, but we ride it out and come back.
And more than ride it out, we batter it.
Yeah.
No, we just take as much as we can now when it's good, because it's going to be bad in a minute.
That's
We spend too much
time
time on
boxing.
this.
It's always short. It's always short term. We
Yeah.
have spent too much time talking about this. So with that in mind, let's hear from Derek Chisora, who I was fortunate enough to catch up with the other day. Here's what he had to say about calls for him to retire ahead of his bout with Tyson Fury. So with that in mind, I know that in the past you've kind of flat batted people talking about whether or not you should be boxing and what have you. If you win this fight, you win the WBC heavyweight title, you jump up on the ropes, 60,000 or 60-something thousand there in London. Would that be like the perfect fit in? Could you see yourself maybe going out then, or are you just going to box and box and box and box till you can't box anymore?
I don't know. It's like going out with the hottest chick, yeah? And then you go to a hotel room and you bust a nut. You pack your bags and go, or you carry on for more rounds.
I guess it probably depends on who you are, Derek.
You carry on for more rounds until you can't do anymore, and that's it.
So that was Derek Chisora with another one of his interesting analogies. Andy, going to come to you first. Derek has, been a long-standing servant of the sport. I mean, I know Barry, you've mentioned in the past he's kind of been recycled more and more and more. He's been Del Boy, he's been War, and now he's somehow kind of fighting for the WBC heavyweight title of the world in a stadium in London. I kind of put to him that would this be the perfect way to go out, even if you won? And he, in his own way, kind of batted that away. What are your thoughts on I guess, the long-term prospects of Derek Chisora as a heavyweight fighter, win, lose or draw come Saturday night?
I don't think he has any long-term prospects in terms of being competitive at the top end of the division. You could make a strong argument that he hasn't been ever competitive at the top end of the division, although he has put in some good performances. He's measured by his losses rather than his wins, and there's nothing wrong with that in a sense, because he steps up. And the 2 performances against Dillian Whyte were great. They were great fights to watch, and he gives everything of himself when he gets in there, particularly in recent years. Before that, he was maybe a little bit up and down, and you couldn't be totally sure. But now he is extremely consistent in what he will bring to the ring. I've no doubt that he will keep going. That's his decision. I've kind of given up almost on saying that a fighter should retire or whatever, because it's up to them really. And although we don't want to see fighters go on what we feel like is past their best or their sell-by date, there's nothing we can do about it. And if they pass the medicals and they pass the scans and they're able to get fights, then it's their decision. It's their decision, and I don't think it doesn't matter what we say. So Chisora will keep going after Saturday, whatever happens. But at that point, I just wonder who he would fight, what fights there would be out there for him. Because if you might think he would be a good fight for someone like Daniel Dubois, but would he be? Would he be? Probably still would be. There might be a couple more.
But go back a month, 6 weeks, and you go, would he really be a good fight for Tyson Fury? No, he wouldn't. But here we are. So I think it won't matter, because he's just a name. And I know that.
But we've just been saying that he's not a good fight for Tyson Fury. But
he's not. No, but the fight's still made. That's what I'm trying to say. So they'll use him as like, well, I can do a better job than Tyson did on him. And he'd be one of those. And he'd be happy because he'll go, well, I want what I'm worth. And
so there might be a couple more of them in the pipeline for him.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see it happening. I think
and then that'll probably be it.
Yeah, I think there's potential for Dubois.
In terms of getting the level of fights that he'll want.
Wouldn't surprise me if we ended up seeing Joe Joyce versus Derek Chisora either.
I think Joyce is... It could definitely happen.
I just think those top boys...
I just think Joyce's...
That might be done to finish.
Joyce's team... I think Joyce's team might... For lack of other options, they will probably end up doing it. But Joyce's team, I think, might look at that and just think, no, we don't really need to beat Derek Chisora.
There's money for nothing, isn't it?
And it's been discussed. I know it's been discussed
but they'll
over
want
the
other
years.
fights. Like Joyce is 36. They won't want, however old. I think he might... Is he older than that? Anyway,
he's
something like that.
37, I think. But I mean, he's in a position now where he has something to protect, and he's not gonna. I mean, despite kind of calls before the fight with Joseph Parker about the WBO going to enforce the mandatory, as we've seen in recent weeks, we've had the IBF, and then it's going to be the WBA. The WBO was the most recent mandatory, so when he's actually going to be called for that, or Alexander Usyk or whoever holds the WBO in 6 months' time is going to be sort of forced by the WBO to make that defence.
The reason I'm having all these belts is so these sort of things don't happen.
Yeah.
One champion, one weight, no one gets an opportunity. 4 champions, 4 weight, you still don't get an opportunity.
Yeah. But yeah, I can't, unless he goes in there and his punch resistance is completely gone, which we didn't see against Kubrat Pulev, to be fair. He's still kind of a top 20, I guess, heavyweight Pulev, sort of there or thereabouts.
15 is some of the ratings, so 12 or something. But yeah.
That was a close fight. How did you see that fight?
I thought Pulev just nicked it.
Yeah, same.
But I didn't argue when they give it to Chisora.
Yeah, it was
that
one
sort
of those.
Fight, wasn't it? But I thought Pulev did enough. And with Chisora, like I've been a boxer myself, so I have empathy for fighters, of course I could do. So I think he should retire now. But I know how hard it is, and because usually you get to earning the money at the end of your career. You don't really earn at your peak. Ironically, all your peak years you get, and you get there. When you get there, you haven't got the window short, and even if you have, there's only the great fighters get there early and continue, and so you get there, and then you got to make hay while the sun shines very quickly, because the dip is just around the corner. So you think, it's a shame for them because the money's there now, but really for their health and the longevity, they want to call it a day. But he's not one of these. You see some fighters and they're delusional about how good they are and how much they have left. And everyone knows they haven't got it left. But you can't see it. He knows. He just don't give a shit.
As long as he gets, paid well.
And everyone's telling him, listen, Derek, you're not going to be able to spend. And people must have told him, you must read, you must see stuff. You can't be that, I don't give a shit what people say. People say I don't give a shit what people say, are saying it because they care what people say. So, he must see the stuff. He got to see it. But Jenny just thinks, I'm fucking doing it anyway.
I think maybe it's not just about the money with him either. I think he needs it. Boxing, I mean.
Well, I think
in his life,
I can't.
think mentally,
you won't find a boxer who doesn't need it, though. That's the truth.
But some more than others, don't they? And whilst like I say, whilst you pass your medicals and you pass your scans and you're allowed to do it, I think he will just keep doing it. And Fury spoke about this the other week, didn't he? And it was quite
bleak.
Yeah, it was quite bleak to hear him say, boxing will retire me. I'll keep going until someone puts me out of my misery, because he knows that he needs this. He kind of tried retiring, and I think he realised, we never thought that he was going to stick to it, but I think he realised, actually, what am I going to do if I don't do this? So I'm going to keep doing it until I can do it no more.
I was with Ricky Hatton at Sky, great company, right? Isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I was with him the other day, and we were talking about retiring. I said people should know.
I think that's the alarm from Frank Warren to tell us to stop slagging. we're getting into legal territory. There we go.
Oh, they've turned it off now.
You were saying, Barry.
Was I fucking saying? Let's just not talk about it. Good luck, Chisora. Good luck, Fury. Right.
Let's move on. We've got a lot to get through. We've mentioned his name there, Daniel Dubois. He defends his WBA regular title against South Africa's Kevin Lerena this weekend. Here's what Dynamite Dubois had to say about Kevin Lerena.
Well, I know he's going to come with a plan, and he's going to be, I hope he comes and brings everything he's got. I'm going to be fully prepared for him and whatever he's practiced and whatever he's done in training. It doesn't matter. I think I've got to go in there and just, go over him and perform well and devastation as I usually do, and just a bit sharper and quicker than when I've done before.
So that was Daniel Dubois, who, of course, returns and makes the first defence of his WBA regular title this weekend on the Fury-Chisora free undercard. Andy, going to come to you first. There'll be people who are watching this who are not hugely familiar with Kevin Lerena. What can you tell those people?
Well, he was a cruiserweight for most of his career, wasn't he? And he won an IBO title, and he's moved up to heavyweight in his last 2 or 3. He's been in with Bogdan Dinu. That's one heavyweight fight that he's had, and he's a top 50 kind of fighter, maybe, Bogdan, that kind of thing. So this is a good fight for Kevin Lerena because it's a massive stage, and I'm assuming he's going to get paid fairly well for it. And it's a shot at the WBA regular title that Dubois has got, of course. But you wouldn't really expect him to cause him any problems. And I think they'll probably be a bit disappointed that something bigger didn't happen for Dubois. And I know, of course, they wanted it to. They wanted that fight against Dillian Whyte, and not taking that, given what we saw against Jermaine Franklin, looks like a very good piece of work by Team White. I don't think that necessarily would have gone great for him. So, you want to see Daniel box well on the weekend, and maybe we want to see him kind of with a bit more of a... Becoming a champion can kind of change you, can't it? You see fighters, they kind of swell a little bit. They have a bit more of a strut, just a bit more composure and authority about them when they get that belt around their waist. And so I'd like to see that. I'd like to see him during the course of the week just kind of... He's not the most... He's a bit awkward in front of the media. I'd like to see him kind of just wear that crown a bit more, maybe.
Yeah, I spoke to him, went down to the gym, I don't know, it was quite a while ago now. It was not long after...
last week, remember you left me waiting, yeah?
That was a different time. I went just after he beat Trevor Bryan, is what I mean. And he's, people will talk about the WBA regular title. Lee Wood has it, and people will talk about not being a real world champion. And it's something that I put to him, and something that I put to him. I was terrified, but still. And Shane McGuigan, of course, his trainer. But in his mind, he is the WBA heavyweight champion of the world.
Oh, well, that's ridiculous,
in his head, he is the champion of the world. So that may bring that out of him. We're going to come to you, Barry, because you keep interrupting me. Yeah, the WBA regular title, I mean, it is a source of much consternation and discussion, I think, within boxing circles. Your thoughts on the whole situation?
You see, people mention Lee Wood, but Lee Wood beat Kanzu. Now, I know Santa Cruz was the champion, but he hadn't boxed a featherweight for years. And he's never going to box a featherweight, I don't think. So Kanzu was regards, even at the regular title, he was regarded as a champion. So he beat a good fighter who should have been the super champion, what fucking that means. So that's what should have happened. So I don't know how Lee was a world champion. Daniel Dubois not. I'm not blaming Daniel. You get an opportunity, you take it. Why wouldn't you not? No, it's an opportunity for anything, money, a fight. But you can't become a world champion because Usyk's got a title. So how can you? You just can't. Like, it's in that same organisation. You got to be realistic about it. Because they're still saying he's learning and all that. Well, if you're a world champion, you can still learn. You still can't call him like a prospect type fighter. But he's good. I like him. I think he's. No, I think he's with the right trainer. I know you love him. Like, literally, I don't even change the name to McGuigan. It's ridiculous. But like, you love him as much as I love his dad, actually. But it's But I think he's the right guy for his style. I think he's perfect, doing the basics well, and he's looked an improved fighter. And they should have got him a big guy. I think for someone like Daniel now, just get him people who look the size. He's going to get in the ring with Lerena, and it's going to be like such a size difference in every sense. Like,
I put this to Shane McGuigan, and of course he's a trainer, and Lerena, former cruiserweight, as you mentioned, southpaw. Alexander Usyk, former cruiserweight, southpaw, WBA regular, means that you are in line.
That's like compared. Well,
no.
Me and Joe Kazagi's from Wales, so am I. There you go.
I obviously understand that. That was the rationale. The WBA regular, while I don't believe it makes you a world champion. I don't consider Daniel Dubois to be a world champion. Hopefully, he doesn't watch this. But it gives you that kind of, it's sort of a mandatory, isn't it? It become mandatory for the WBA. If and when the WBA call the mandatory, which is next, the last one was Povetkin in September 2018, that is Daniel Dubois.
It gets him closer, it's brilliant.
It gets him closer, for sure. Whether or not they would want to box Alexander Usyk next, I highly doubt it. But that's kind of the reasoning, I guess, behind, is what I've been told, for the Kevin Lerena fight. Lerena had a decent win last time out against Marius Wack. He's seen better days, but he's somebody who we've all seen in decent enough fights.
He's still competitive.
Yeah, exactly. Lerena dropped him a couple of times, won a clear decision. I don't think this is the worst fight in the world for Daniel Dubois. I don't. I think this is the hardest fight that he's had under Shane McGuigan by a significant distance. And that's more against, your Bogdan Dinos, Trevor Bryan, Giuseppe Cusimano. So I think it is, it's a step in the right direction. He's a southpaw who can, he's fast enough hands, and I think he could potentially make things a bit awkward. I'll be interested to see what happens. Big stage. You've mentioned there about puffing your chest out as a world champion, regardless of the regular status, but also it comes with other pressures, I guess, and being co-main to a pay-per-view show in front of thousands and thousands of people. If Daniel is tight and he doesn't do what he should do in the first couple of rounds and Lerena settles in, then there are, potential, I think, for Lerena to make things a bit awkward and horrible for him, which is something that he needs and something to work out at this stage of his career.
I would just say, for the impression of what it looks, that's what I'm trying to say, is that you get him a big lump who's 6'7", you get him back. He would knock out, but he's knocking out a giant. It looks impressive.
Actually, Vac would be decent.
Yeah, but it'd look good because he's a big, massive lump. His head's about 2 foot, isn't it?
But the naysayers would say he lost to Kevin Lerena last time out. He's a cruiserweight.
No. I'd say but it's not a world title fight, is it? Really, it's not a real. So he's not. And if it was, he shouldn't be boxing Lerena. He should box something better. If we're going to go that route, I don't know how we get out of it. But so I don't see him as a genuine world champion. I still see him as a guy who's getting there on his way up. He had a good win, went away from home and beat that fella, like in that casino. It's all these experiences for him. And he's regrouped from that defeat to Joe Joyce. That's important. He's still young enough. I don't think there was any rush with him. He's young. And for his weight division, he's a baby young. So and he's learning all the time. And he's doing well. And he's good to watch. And I think he has potential to be maybe a world champion. You're already a world champion. But I mean, this giving people like they did with Bruno and people like that. He boxed some good fights, but also they're giving people a bash over. I think you promote a heavyweight different to any other weight. I think I do. I think for the aesthetics of it all, if he's not a guy full of muscles or a big lump, a giant, and he just knocks him cold, everyone goes whoa. If he knocks out Kevin Lerena now, which is a good win for him, by the way, a better win than it would be Vac, but no one's going to go whoa. going to go, well, look at the size of him.
I think he probably needs that now. I think he needs fights that are going to aid his development as opposed to fights that are going to, I get what you're saying. He's co-main on a pay-per-view. You want to see him iron somebody out who looks a big, horrible, tattooed, like back. He's tattoos and everything. But
Well, give me Frank Sanchez then. There you go.
yeah, but
Well, why not? Why not? Why not? Because he's a world champion, isn't he? No, that's double that.
Yeah,
If
but that's the
if he beats him, though, I'll do that out. Look at that.
But then if he beats him, there's nowhere else to go other than fighting for a proper world title afterwards.
Well, there is. There's Gerald Anderson. He fought Gerald Anderson. There's loads
He
of fighters
can't be
at
a baby
level.
in one regard and then fight somebody like Frank Sanchez. Where if he
I don't
wins
think
that-
he. No, but I'm going by your reasoning about not your reasoning. I'm just arguing for the sake of arguing. But not like me.
No, but you presented the two arguments there perfectly, because one is that, never mind the WBA regular thing, he's a prospect still, getting up towards the top end of the division, and every fight needs to be tailored towards progressing him and furthering that development. And then there's the other one, which is, but he's a world champion and he should be boxing people at the top of the division, but he's not there yet, is he?
Yeah, and I think
that's like Frank Sanchez would be a horrible fight for him right now,
Yeah.
because of what he's like stylistically, and you don't really want to. He can't afford to lose again now,
Yeah.
can he? So
And that's the type of fight
kind
where
of
he
quite
could look-
soon, really, after the.
Yeah, of
and
course,
they
yeah.
were more ambitious for this. They did want Dillian
Yeah.
Whyte, and that just didn't happen. So yeah, I mean it's not that dissimilar to Fury-Chisora, really.
But
We
I think
wanted Fury-Joshua or Usyk. We didn't get it. We've got Fury-Chisora. They wanted Dillian Whyte. They couldn't get him. They've got Kevin Lerena.
We've
I
stated
actually-
this show. Oh, this is terrible.
That's all right.
But I would say, as long as he's busy,
Yeah,
I think busy. But I think for him, busy as he can be is important for him.
I actually think it's not the worst fight in the world, and I think it'd
No,
be
you're
good.
right, it's not.
I think it'd be good if Dubois can have a few things to figure out. Where Lerena goes in there, he makes it awkward, makes it tricky for the first 3 or 4 rounds of the speed, and he can be a bit more elusive than he's shown in the past because he's a southpaw with reasonably quick hands, but he's not the most awkward of southpaws. You get very tricky, awkward customers. He's not necessarily that, but I think that would be good to see how Dubois pins somebody like that down. And then in the future, against the Frank Sanchez, which is kind of, I know he's not a southpaw, but a similar sort of mover, is quite negative. He can frustrate you and showing that you can come past somebody similar sort of style to that in Lerena, but much lower opposition.
I would stay away from Frank Sanchez.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to run into getting a ring with him because of those reasons. Because he can make you look terrible, and he can, look what he did to F.A. Ajagba.
Yeah.
F.A. Ajagba had a lot of hype around him, and then all of a sudden he was completely neutralised, dropped, and that's kind of going to be him really at the top level. I mean, I haven't heard of F.A. Ajagba since.
No.
I mean, he had the comeback fight, but
that
still.
was a terrible night for him.
Yeah, and a really strange fight to be in as well
Yeah.
at that time.
I don't know why they did that.
Top rank versus PBC, and you offer him up against Frank Sanchez, who nobody really wants to fight. It's not. To
I
say
think
that-
they must have just thought he was better.
That he would
than
catch him
he
with a
turned
shot.
Out to be
And
that
also,
he would catch him.
go, well, really, Frank Sanchez is 53, really. He's Cuban, they're lying. He said, what they say, what's he supposed to be, 34 or something?
I don't know. I think he's supposed to be younger than that. I think he's like in his 20s.
Oh, yeah, that's a liar, man. That's a liar. What are you on about? I played football with him when I was in school.
Right, moving on. One fight that I want to discuss before we move over stateside for the real trilogy this weekend. Yvan Mendy versus Denis Berinchyk for the European lightweight title. Andy, going to come to you first. You went over and you saw Denis Berinchyk in his last fight. We all know Yvan Mendy over these shores for his 2 fights with Luke Campbell. Good fight. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, it is a good fight. People won't pick this one out because it's with 2 non-UK fighters, but Mendy, we've seen plenty down the years. He's thrown the odd spanner in the works at times, and he's a good fighter. He's been around the block. He's been around for a long time, and he absolutely knows what he's doing. Berinchyc's a really interesting lad because he was part of that Ukraine team in 2012, got a silver medal, but he hasn't really done that much in the 10 years since. He's not really near the top end of that lightweight division. He's just kind of kept boxing. He's never had any long period of inactivity, but he hasn't really, in a decade, he hasn't really got anywhere, to be brutally honest. But he's a lot of fun. He's properly famous in Ukraine. He's been on like Dancing with the Stars over there and all sorts of stuff, and he loves a good ring entrance. He's had a bare knuckle again as well against Artem Lobov. Yeah, and they made a big deal out of that. The ring was kind of, it was kind of big sandbags that they put around it to make up the ring, and they all came in dressed as Peaky Blinders and all that kind of stuff. It was decent. Like, as a TV spectacle, it was really good. So he's got plenty behind him, to the point where he maybe doesn't even really need to go and win a world title. I mean, I think he's probably making a decent amount of money outside of the ring and that kind of thing. But it'll be a good fight, that, yeah, it will be.
Yeah, and Yvan Mendy, Barry, is a tough cookie. I think since he lost to Luke Campbell, again, ironically, on the undercard of Joshua Povetkin, the last WBA heavyweight mandatory, which of course was a rematch after Luke Campbell lost in the first fight to Mendy. He's kind of been avoided. We haven't heard many people talk about boxing Yvan Mendy, particularly in a division where there is a lot of talent who could do with, hard rounds against a guy who comes at you, is very kind of compact, tough man. He's going to give you hard rounds, but yeah, good fighter, Yvan Mendy.
He's one of those fighters who, why would you? He's one of those, isn't he? It's a great test for your fighter. And if you go on the world level, that's the test, isn't it, to go on beyond. But why would you?
You've had like Ryan Garcia's boxed Emmanuel Tego, and he's boxed Javier Fortuna and guys around that sort of level.
Yeah.
Yvan Mendy's name has never come up.
No, he never does he?
Yeah, well,
I mean,
that's probably why.
I kind of half thought he'd retired, to be honest, before this this fight was made.
And that's what you tend to think. Berinchyks getting him at the right time, maybe, but you don't know.
Yeah,
he's with K2 Berinchyk, so they're clever. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And,
you're banking on man. You think Berinchyk, at his best, will maybe school him, but you're banking on Mendy just being sat on the shelf for too long.
Yeah,
and that's always a risky thing. But he'll be competitive. That's for sure. Whatever happens, I know you're going to guy who's going to come and have a pop. That's for sure. And then we know where Berinchyk is. Then I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
No, you're not saying this is the fight you have before you fight for the world title, but at least you know where his aspirations lie. Is he ready for that real step up now? Because I like the division. No, saying you're near the top in the lightweight division still means you
doesn't make you bad, does it?
Just means you're very good, not brilliant, not brilliantly good.
We've spoken about Andy in the past about the potential for Berinchyk versus Vasily Lomachenko, two Ukrainians. You'd think that maybe do something back home in the Ukraine.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we're aware of all the problems currently, and who knows when they'll be able to put some shows on in Ukraine. Hopefully, it won't be too long. Wouldn't that be great if they could get some kind of respite? I can't even imagine what it's like getting up every morning there this entire year. But I went to Kiev last December before it all started, and I had a great time. It's a great place, and they love boxing over there. They absolutely love it, and to be able to get a big all-Ukrainian clash, or just to get one of them boxing there, Lomachenko or Usyk, would be amazing. It would be amazing, because we all know why it hasn't happened, because the money's elsewhere, and fighters have to go where the money is. But it would be sensational to get one of those two. There's football stadiums in Kiev. There's about 4 of them, I think. It's a kind of thing where if it happened, you would just want to go.
Yeah,
you would just want to go. All of us, we would just want to go. We could have an ID boxing trip, couldn't we?
I'll tell you what, if Usyk or Lomachenko boxes in the Ukraine, we'll all go. I'm not paying, but we'll all go. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of what we spoke about with Gennady Golovkin boxing at Kazakhstan before he hangs his gloves up. It's that type of
at the Barry Arena. There's an arena called Barry.
Yeah, there is.
Barry
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
okay,
unbelievable. So I'm literally more famous than Golovkin.
Yeah,
in
could box Alim Kanuli in Kazakhstan.
That'd be good. Okay, right, Barry. We're going to come to you first.
About what?
Because we've got the trilogy this weekend.
Oh, yes.
Juan Francisco Estrada and Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. Feels like every time we talk about the 4 princes as they've become to be known, it's the last dance. But this does look like the last one.
You think so, wouldn't you? But talk about an evergreen generation of fighters. They should be all retired by now. I mean, for what they've achieved and the wars they've had. And there's no miles on the clock for him. I've never known anything like it. I'm serious. And little fighters, I think we take damage more than you big guys. Sorry, just because you're a fan. But no, then the bigger guys, we take more shots, don't we? But like Gonzalez, no, he's not. I mean, all right, they've lost a step or two, but they've all lost a step or two together.
Yeah.
But they're still clearly above anyone else, except for Bam Rodriguez, maybe. But
he's now moved down.
Yeah, then we're back down away. Yeah, but it's a great fight. It's another great fight. It'll be this could be fight of the year. I think it's just a brilliant fight. if I'm tired on Saturday, I'm going to bed while the Fury fight's on to wake up for that. I'm not missing that. I'm not missing that fight. No chance at all. And I don't stay up. I'm an old man now, so I don't stay up because you can record stuff. I just found out recently. Who knew? And
he gets his VHS and he puts it in.
But you can record stuff. So I just say, I'll watch it in the morning. And I watch it before I go on Twitter or anything else, and I watch it. So, but that I'll stay up for that. Yeah. It's a brilliant fight. Gonzalez. It's all Gonzalez. Like, if you had to say, like, what's the most poetic style in boxing? It's him. The smoothest. If there was a sound for Gonzalez, it would be. That would be the sound of him. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
He's just so fluent with his work. It's like that. It's like a paint stroke. Like that. Everything does just smooth. You don't load up with any shots. That's why he can throw a million of punches. That's why he can roll onto shots. He slips punches coming forward, which is so impossible to do. And he does it with so much ease at this stage of his career. The hands are always high. He has that lateral movement. It's when your hands are high, you defend yourself. It makes you a bit rigid. That's why boxers like to have the hands a bit low, because you've got more of a body movement. But he keeps the movement with his hands high. It does everything you want a kid to do. Like, you want to learn how to fight, watch him. Don't watch the flashy guys who are naturally athletic. You watch him, and he does everything brilliant. Doesn't load up, but gets the stoppages because he wears you out, he hurts you, and he fights at a pace you just can't stay with him. But then it's Estrada, who can fight at a tremendous pace, does load up with his punches. But just the energy, the energy he has, the power he has for a little fella is just tremendous. The grit. There's not one box they don't take, like individually or between them. I think I put it on Twitter this morning. If this is 10% the fight that it was, it's still like a fight worth getting up for. It's just brilliant. It's like, it gives me tinglings down below. That's how good it is. I'm not even joking. It's like, this is what boxing is. These guys should be getting the money that the heavyweights are getting. This is the trilogy. This is the only trilogy worth watching on Saturday, is that. Live on the zone.
And I'm going to come to you there. Barry just mentioned, Carlos Cuadras, Usyk-Joshua Rungvisai, of course, both beaten by Jesse Rodriguez. It does feel that Chocolatito and Estrada, they're the last two still there at the top level. We saw Carlos Cuadras out in Mexico. Not sure whether or not he's going to box again in the future. Made some good money, which is kind of ushered in by Chocolatito. Inoue, when Inoue was down there, they used to do those brilliant Superfly cards at Tom Loeffler and K2. But yeah, considering a few years ago, Roman Gonzalez was finished after the back-to-back losses to Usyk-Joshua Rungvisai.
One was really close. People forget that.
Yeah, the first one was a brilliant fight, by the way. Since then, he's beat Cal Yafai. He's beat Julio Cesar Martinez. And I think a lot of people, myself, Barry, I know you, because you got his Chocolatito sandwich board love heart thing on, felt that he won the second fight against Juan Francisco Estrada. How excited are you for this weekend? And it could well be, and I think it will be, the last one between those four princes.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And I'm very confident that we will get a suitable finale, because it is amazing what they've managed to give us. Because Barry's right, the lower weights fighters do tend to finish that bit earlier because it is physically very demanding, because generally speaking you'll go a lot of rounds, and studies show that sustained head trauma, which is what you get over 10 or 12 rounds, is worse than getting violently knocked out in 3. That's difficult for kind of non-boxing fans to understand, because a violent knockout looks so bad, but the more rounds you box, ultimately, the more damage you can take. So it's amazing how they've managed to go on into their 30s. And it did look like he was probably done after he got chinned by Rungvisai, because you look at that and you just think, such a hard fight in the first fight, which he could easily have got it, but he didn't get it. And
he had a long career already, hadn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And then
way
to
above
get
his natural weight or his optimum weight.
That's it. And then to get knocked out in the second one, you just thought, okay, that's a passing of the torch now. But then Estrada beat Rungvisai, and all of a sudden we're kind of into a bit of an Indian summer with all of them, really. And they've been terrific. They've been absolutely sensational. And thankfully, I think they have all made some money too, which is exactly how it should be, because HBO, like you said, K2 and Tom Loeffler, and HBO got on board with the Knights of the Superflies, and got them the kind of platform and the recognition and the money that they deserved. It's never going to be as much as the higher weights, and we all know why. But I think they've got the recognition that their talent and the entertainment they've brought merits, and that's not always the case, is it?
No, absolutely not. And they've what they've done in the last few years is they've made, people, not that people didn't care, but as you've mentioned there, make people care more about the lower weight classes. So the likes of Jesse Rodriguez, Junto Nakatani, Sonny Edwards, those guys coming through, they now have a platform. It's more of a norm now for these guys to be headlining big cards, what people look at as a great boxing show and getting paid good money for them. So they've ushered in kind of a whole new generation of talent down there. Or maybe not the talent, because the talent's always been there, but putting eyes on those talents. I'm very much looking forward to it. And I do feel like the loser of this fight, I don't know whether or not we see them again, because I think if you're Chocolatito or Estrada and you lose this fight, then where's the next fight going to be? Who's it going to be? How much money are you going to get paid for it? It's going to be very interesting to see what happens to the loser. I think the winner, Rodriguez is still kind of knocking around at flyweight. It's going to move back up, I'm assuming, at some point. Junto Nakatani is moving up and boxing for the vacant WBO. So it's going to be he's moving up and Rodriguez is moving down to box for the vacant WBO. So Nakatani up there, Sonny Edwards has talked about moving up to Superfly. So that kind of new generation are there, and these are, I think, the last two of that era of fighters. So I'm very much looking forward to it. One question on Chocolatito that I want both of your opinions on. I am, of course, the young one here, the handsome young man. So I didn't see a lot of Alexis Arguello growing up. I've gone back and watched and
what did I, mate?
But Barry being 55 years of age.
I'm not far off that. So is
Chocolatito the greatest Nicaraguan of all time?
God, that's a really hard question, that.
I think he is. But I think, Arguello will live in the memories of people when boxing was the greatest sport on the planet, and he was one of the greatest ones to do it when boxing was at its peak. I say when boxing was at its peak, there's been more boxing now than ever before.
Yeah,
more shows with bigger money.
Sport,
but it was, and being a world champion then meant more than it ever has since, to be honest. But I think he is. The longevity, moving up in weights. I know it's a little bit easier with the guys because it's only a few pounds, but which I know it makes a difference, but it's still, it's easier to move up and down weights in the smaller weights. And the opposition he's been up against, he's been fortunate and unfortunate to be surrounded by really good fighters. Like, even for Calzaghe, I got him in. I think I haven't said pivot yet, though.
I'm sure we'll get there.
But, they didn't have, Ben and Eubank and Collins around him. You sort of feel sorry for them. You also go, but also, there might be a loss there at their peak. I think he beats them all, but you keep fighting each other, you will lose. And these guys, that's why Chocolatito, I so much wanted him to beat Mayweather's record, because he was there on his way, and then that Sarung Vasai came around and just shook up the whole world. By the way, I think he fights him again, but I think that might happen.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Because he'll feel he can beat him now. Because Sarung Vasai was so, he's flat-footed anyway, and I think with Chocolatito he'll come on to you. But I think he looks so slow on his feet against Rodriguez.
I think that'll always be a hard fight for Chocolatito.
Yeah, stylistically it's wrong.
Yeah, it's always a hard fight for him.
But I don't think he's scared. But that's what he's shown. That's why he's one of the greatest to ever do it. That's never been an issue with him. He's not a champion who's picked his way around fighters, who've avoided people. He haven't moved up in weights to stay away from people. He's just moved up in weights because he wants a bigger challenge. And I think that's what makes him such a great fighter. He's actively looking to fight good fighters. He wants to fight them. Be fair, they're all the same.
Yeah, that's the great thing, isn't it? They are all the same. In a way, he was the same, and Sonny's like that. That's what I love about Sonny is that he really does want to fight anyone, and it's not just talk. He would do it. I'm convinced of it. But he isn't the only one.
Same question to you before we kind of move off the point: Chocolatito or Arguello for you?
That's a real tough one, because Arguello is a bit of a favourite of mine, but then so's Chocolatito, and for me with those two, it's not just about. Of course, it is about what they did in the ring, because what they've done in seeking out challenges has been phenomenal. You look at Arguello, 3-weight world champion, probably best at super featherweight, some would argue. He missed Duran. Him and Duran missed each other by a small margin at lightweight. Imagine that. But then he kept going and he ran into Aaron Pryor, but he was up for it.
And that was at 140.
That's it. That was
crazy.
it.
Oh, they both had a bogeyman.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. And they're both, fighters like that are much beloved because they just always gave you what you wanted, which was the big fight. The fight that people might think, he's not going to do that. I'm not sure that's a great idea. But they just got these massive balls on them that's what they want to do. And what I like about the pair of them, the reason why I like the pair of them so much as well is not just because of that, it's just because of how they've behaved and conducted themselves outside of the ring and around fights. They're incredible sportsmen who never felt the need to trash talk anyone or behave like a twat. They've just gone about it the right way at all times, and they're, just very, very admirable people.
Andy Clarke just swore.
Is twat a swear word?
He just swore twice.
You swore on the pod the other week, and I ended up clipping it, and everyone was going, "I've never heard Andy Clarke swear before."
I won't see him on Sky again.
But you know what I'm saying. You know what I mean about these two.
Yeah.
I understand that there's more than one way to sell a fight, but I do love fighters who. What you want to see is authenticity, and Barry touched on it right at the start. You get some people, they're not they're not real, and I haven't really got any time for that. If their natural personality is to be abrasive and unpredictable, and I do think Chisora's like that, I agreed with that, fine. But if somebody's natural personality is to behave like Gonzalez or Arguello, you can still make yourself a very attractive proposition. You don't have to throw tables around.
You can see why fighters don't do it though, because everyone's screaming Joshua, he just media trained. I see the real Joshua, and then he shows you, and they all go, don't like that. Don't want to see you, mate. They'll go back to being the other guy. You can't win, come time.
Andy, we're not going to let you out without picking a name.
Oh, Arguello then, just because
I would say right to counteract your and you can argue
had
that
been around longer.
Is you can't, like when Arguello was boxing, you couldn't avoid fighters. It was impossible. But Chocolatito could. There's an argument that his weight he couldn't, but he could avoid fighters.
Yeah,
he never. In this multi-weight, multi-belt universe we live in now, then you can avoid fighters like the plague. And you just move, and he never. I don't.
Yeah, he always chose to run into the burning building.
But Arguello had no choice. He had to fight those people.
Do you think we could see him move up in weight again? Chocolatito, if he does come past Estrada, go up to bantamweight?
Oh, please don't say that. I don't want
No, I hope not.
No.
I don't think it would be Inoue, because I think Inoue...
Oh, then go for it.
Paul Butler, which I think everybody expects him to, and he moves up in weight, he's going to leave a lot of vacant belts behind. You could see Chocolatito versus Casimero.
I think he's just too small. He's too small for Superfly, I think. And you see it in the ring, actually, don't you? Yeah. You see the difference between them, how big they are for him. I just think he's too small. Moving up in weights. And at his age and all that, I don't... This is a great goodbye. He wins his trilogy, or not. He's in with one of his...
Should be 2-0 up already, by the way.
He's in with his... Yeah, I think so. But he's in with his best, his greatest stance partner.
Yeah.
That's it. I think I'd like to see him get a win over Rung Vasai, and then at least he comes away with something out of every fight he's had, like pretty much fight that he's been up against. But that would be... No, I think the Estrada one's a perfect fit-in, to be fair.
Andy, how do you see it ending on Saturday night? Estrada, Chocolatito 3?
I was thinking about this earlier in the week. I can't really make my mind up. I do feel like he got the rough end of the stick in the last time the two of them met.
To pick him in it.
Yeah. I think I'll go Chocolatito points.
Yeah, of course. It's biased I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
I've literally emailed everyone from the zone I could think of. Like just
to get over there.
I want to work in it. I was like, I had such a great response from the one I did in Abu Dhabi. I'm sure you'd like to have me again. And I go, no, not really, mate. And then I go, forget about you. Delete your email address. Hi, I'm Barry. I did a great job for you in Abu Dhabi.
He's over there. Andy flew yesterday. Went to Phoenix. So he's there bringing you all Estrada Chocolatito 3 content.
But I'm not there, am I? But it's a great fight. Man, Chocolatito Estrada is brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, I think thought Chocolatito won the second fight. As great a fight as it was, and I think they're the types we kind of just.
But it goes on to the last round. Like, no, look how they were fighting in the last round. Like, it's just in the last fight. Like, it's just like this could be. You could have picked. You wouldn't be able to tell what round that was.
No. And I think no matter how many times they box, it'll always be a great fight.
Yeah.
And then there's so much pride there and so much ability. I don't see either of them stopping the other.
It's crazy. This is just what boxing is all about.
Really looking forward to that one. As I am the co-main as well. Julio Cesar Martinez returns against Samuel Carmona. His long fight with Williams Arroyo. I think Mauricio said that it's been delayed or postponed 5 times. Of course, they did have the fight where there was the clash of heads after 2 knockdowns in the space of, I think, a round and a half. But we've landed on Samuel Carmona. Andy, we were speaking about him when we arrived today. Expecting a tough test for Julio Cesar Martinez?
I think he might have to be quite patient, but I think ultimately what he does will work, that he'll get to Carmona. It might take him a bit longer than normal, but I just think over that potential, was it 10 or 12? 12 round distance that he'll be too strong for him and win the fight the way that he generally, that he does win fights, basically. I've been a little bit kind of underwhelmed with him recently because you never really know what the reasons are behind things not happening. And I generally think that it's very, very rarely because the fighter doesn't want to fight someone. It's maybe their team doesn't really fancy it, or it doesn't work politically, promotionally, TV-wise, for whatever particular reason. But not seeing that fight between him and Sonny Edwards is...
That's such a natural fight.
It's irritated me.
Stands on his head.
It's and I think he probably does, and I think maybe the people around...
I said that all the time.
And I think the longer...
I think the people around...
Or he knocks Sonny out in 10 seconds.
Well, I think the fight is...
It's like that, isn't it?
I think the longer that fight has gone without being made, the more... I mean, I tweeted about it after Sonny Edwards' win over Felix Alvarado. If you look at Umtolani, Mama, Wazeem, Alvarado, that's a good run. Very respectable. And I think
don't give the kid a bigger ego than he can.
That's all right, he doesn't watch this anyway. But now, particularly after the Alvarado fight, because Alvarado, after 6 or 7 rounds, really stuck it on Sonny in that fight, and he had to dig deep and he had to show stuff that you hadn't really seen from Edwards yet, and that you kind of looked at the Martinez fight as something that maybe he would be able to implement on the fight and maybe drag Sonny into a dark place in the second half of the fight. He did that against Alvarado and he came through it. So now I think with those experiences under Sonny Edwards' belt, I think it's now more of an obvious win for him than it would have been had they have boxed before. But that's one of the annoying things about it, is that I feel like with the backstory of Charlie Edwards, with all of that stuff, a couple of fights ago, that would have been a really, really... It's still going to be a big fight if and when it does happen, but I feel like now there's a more noticeable favourite, I think. I think it's still a very good fight, and I don't think it's any more than sort of 65-35, but still.
Martinez boxes like a guy with natural power, so he's patient. He'll get you out there early, but I mean, he don't mind. I mean, he does mind, but he knows he can knock you out in round 1 or round 10, 11, 12. So he'd be fine. So against a boxer, like say Saturday night, if he has a bit of trouble, he won't mind. Just stick to his task. He's once I grab hold of you, you're done. That's where he fights. But when you're someone like Sonny, who won't just be hard to pin down. It's impossible to pin down. It's impossible to hit clean. So you don't feel like you're patient with your work. It's okay when I hit you. It's when I hit you clean. They're still hitting you, but with him, you're not hitting him at all. That's the problem. And you get him on the ropes, he's there. And then just when you go to attack, he's behind you. How do you get there? That's what he does so well, Sonny Edwards. And I think he hits harder than what his record suggests. He's not a puncher, but he punches hard enough to make you feel it. So it slows you down, because you see a lot of fighters, who would just run at him. Well, they sort of tried it and they walked into a shot. And they go, I'm not doing that again. I'm stupid. So I think he has enough weight in his punches to give you that respect. But ultimately, but they'll swing with him if they're in range, because they think, oh no, he doesn't have to knock me out, but I can knock you out. So I think Martinez has that patience in his work, but against someone like Sonny, I think there'd be a frustration that creeps in, and a little, and he'll have everything over him. I think he stands him on his head unless he makes a mistake, and then he goes to sleep.
This fight against Samuel Carmona, I was just looking back here. He boxed Joel Cordova on a Matchroom Spain card a little while ago. We spoke again before we got started about the fact that Carmona, I think, will be tricky, kind of amateur style, and I think for 4 or 5 rounds he's going to make things a bit awkward. We've seen Martinez in the past, lose 4, 5, 6 rounds, and then all of a sudden the fight's over. Do you give him any chance of springing the upset, Carmona?
Not really, but I think that's pretty much exactly what's going to happen. I think that duration is just way too long for him, to be honest, against someone like Martinez. And yeah, I mean, at the halfway stage, he would be ahead if it's still going on at the halfway stage, but I think he'll end up getting taken out kind of well short of the finishing tape.
Never boxed a 12-rounder, Carmona, which is going to be interesting.
I'll tell you what Martinez does well is he accelerates in his work. So he walks you down a bit, and all of a sudden you poof, like he's fast, and he got fast hands.
Explosive.
Yeah, and I think that, especially with that amateur stuff, if they get him on the bounce, because I had it.
Yeah.
Was that it?
And he seems to be one of these guys as well where, and this always seems to me to be quite unusual, is if he throws a combination, then the final punch seems to be the hardest one.
Yeah, that's what
a lot of the time. I know it should be, but often it's not, is it? So he'll, especially that 1-2 left hand to the body.
Yeah,
the left hand to the body just seems absolutely horrendous. But with a lot of fighters, the pop goes kind of off.
Yeah, so it tends to it's more relaxing in your shots, isn't it? Making the last one, that's to push off the back leg. That's what it should be. That's like a Chocolatito, everything's smooth. But he doesn't push off the leg for the last big shot like an Estrada would, by the way. But yeah, I think Martinez does explode into his combinations, and because there's speed with it as well, the natural power. That's what I think is a shock for people.
Yeah,
and I think unless you. I think for a conventional mover, it's quite hard to keep him off you.
Yeah, I think we talked about this the other week, didn't we? That when you see the reaction of someone who gets hit and they know that the guy they're in with is supposed to be a big puncher, and then they get hit and they think, like, oh no, this is worse than I thought. I saw it on Sunday with Ryland Charlton and Adam Azim.
Yeah.
You see someone's reaction, it's just like, oh my God. They're shocked, literally.
That was after about 20 seconds.
That could happen to Carmona on
I've been there. Someone put a picture on it on Twitter.
Anyway, right, so that's our preview for this weekend, I guess, brought to an end. We've got about 20 minutes or so left where we discuss a fight that was announced recently. Chris Eubank Jr., we've discussed it already, versus Liam Smith. Andy, going to come to you first. Like the fight?
Yeah, I do. I like the fight a lot. It's been rumoured for a long time. I mean, Liam signed with Boxer basically for this fight. And then I think was just kind of left scratching his head a bit when Eubank signed to fight Conor Benn. So that falling out of bed has definitely helped him. Originally, I think they were hoping they might get it done for December the 17th, but that always looked a bit optimistic. So it's January.
I can't see that fight doing well in Bournemouth.
No.
Also, by the way, so does this now officially mean that Andy's super ambitious shout of Chris Eubank Jr. winning a world title?
It's not going to happen. It's done, yeah. Unless something extremely unexpected happens.
We've had to void his prediction because now he's Sky Man again. So he don't want to sound biased. So
ID Boxing.
There we go. ID Boxing's Andy Clarke.
I do like it. Yeah, I do like it. I don't think. I know that Eubank's stylistically changed a bit since he started working with Roy Jones, and I don't think necessarily for the better. That might just be a kind of selfish thing to say because I preferred watching him prior to that. Maybe he would be more capable now of beating a higher level of opposition than he was before, but I do kind of hope that in this one he reverts to type, which I thought he would against Conor Benn if that had happened, because if he does, then this will be epic, because I really like watching Liam Smith. I've always really liked watching him. I think he's just really, really good to watch. And he's wound up by Eubank. We were talking at the press conference yesterday, weren't we? And it's easy for me to say because I'm not the one sitting at that top table, but people just seem to allow Eubank under their skin, and I don't really understand why.
Knack of it,
he just seems to be incredibly good at it, because you could see that Liam, he knows what Eubank's doing because he said it enough times, but it still gets on his nerves enough to make him really bite. So this is going to be the whole thing. I think is going to should should deliver the goods.
We had Liam Smith on the Sky podcast, I think when he signed for him actually, and he was talking about this fight, and he said, yeah, all that stuff he does, all his stuff he does in the press conference won't get under my skin. I said it will,
and it did.
It will, but it won't affect him. I mean, I say whatever he does will get right on your nerves. And he was a bit like that, Liam. Like, I don't want to upset him. And then he felt like, what? He will get. I don't think it'll affect your performance. I think it'll help you. But I mean, he will get. His personality is everything you do on. Everything you're not. He's just totally different.
That's it. That's what makes it so good, isn't it? And that, he won't get in his head on the night, but in the build up, it annoys him. You can see.
But we will see the old Eubank. We will see the one because he's got to throw a lot of punches to keep Liam Smith off him.
Yeah, exactly.
He's gonna have to. Yeah. There's no way. He's naturally a bigger guy, but not by much.
No, not by much.
But what I like about Eubank as well, and this kind of fight is I will be working on this fight, so I'm not, but. It is a great matchup in terms of this is a kind of head-to-head and rivalry and atmosphere that I really enjoy in the build-up to a fight. Because when Eubank's involved in it, he means what he says, and he looks to cut deep with some of the things that he says. But there's always just this slight air of pantomime about it. He knows he's a villain. He comes in a KFC jacket. I'm just a man in a KFC jacket trying to earn a living. He plays the game brilliantly. And Smith will kind of do it from his side as well. So, of course, this is serious because they're going to get in there and try and bash each other up. And it's like I was saying before, you never want what happens in the ring to change. It's deadly serious stuff. But in the build-up to it, it will appeal to the kind of entertainment side that boxing needs to, because this will be circusy. And that's what you want, isn't it?
I think Liam Smith gets lots of success. I think he has lots of success. I think he'll close the distance down quite quick. I think you have to walk into shots, but I think he slips and slides quite better than what people give him credit for, and he's tough and he will work away. I don't know about the effect that I have on Eubank though. I think Eubank is innately tough.
Yeah,
he didn't inherit his dad's power, natural power. He didn't, but I think he inherited that raw toughness.
Yeah,
that you just can't put a price on, and mentally he's tough.
Yeah,
I think he'd be in a hard fight. I think he's a hard man to stop and beat up. Liam would do his best to do that. So I think it's how Liam, when Liam is landing with shots, but he doesn't see the energy from Eubank waning at all, it's how he reacts to that. Because I think Smith is all the whole Gallagher thing was about the tactical thing that they always should have about make him work hard and they'll get him down the stretch. And that's how he fights by nature. Yeah. But I think it'll get down to the stretch, and Eubank will still be sprightly. But he has to make Eubank work harder than he's ever worked before. I think he can do that.
Do you think this is one of those fights that just could take a lot out of the pair of them?
Oh, definitely.
Win, lose or draw. That this is going to put miles on your clock.
I do.
Because
I think it might be a fight that Liam Smith might go, I can't win one of these.
Yeah.
By the way, I picked Liam Smith to win. There you go. So I'm saying this through that. I fancy him to win. I just think he's going to be. You just look at Liam Smith and you just think he's just going to walk into punches, but he doesn't walk into punches.
He's a lot cuter than people give him credit for.
And his feet are faster than what you think. He looks quite fat-footed, and also he's tough.
Yeah,
Canelo stopped him. It's Canelo, for God's sake.
Yeah, and he hadn't had a great preparation for that.
But even if he had, that was always going to be the scenario. To be honest, because he stepped up a massive level against Canelo was flying. By the way. Well, he was flying through the weights, wasn't he? But he was flying.
Yeah.
Full of meat. And
don't get a suit. Well, it'd be interesting for Canelo's next fight on DAZN, wouldn't it?
What's that?
Nothing.
Oh yeah. No. I mean, for you get.
Yeah. Moving on. Anyway, Andy, you said there about you see him reverting to type. I don't think he will, and I said this about the Conor Benn fight as well.
I mean, I just hope he will. That's half the reason I say it, probably.
I think they've brought Roy Jones Jr. back in for this, who, of course, wasn't going to be a part of the training team for the Conor Benn fight. That didn't happen. I just don't think he will. I think we see the Chris Eubank Jr., Roy Jones kind of flicking with the jab, moving on the outside. I felt like...
But how good is that, Chris Eubank
He gets beaten.
It was good enough to win the Liam Williams fight.
Yeah, comprehensively,
clearly. And I think we all felt like with all of the animosity in the build-up to that fight, I mean, Liam Williams said some really not so great stuff about Chris Eubank Jr. for a long time, during a period of time where Chris Eubank Jr. and his family were going through some real, horrible stuff with Seb. And he was ice cold. And I said this to you before, he has this ability, Eubank Jr., to completely remove himself.
Yeah,
and to
that's
be
true.
completely cold. And I feel like that's what we're going to see from him. I really like the fight. I think the fight's going to be really, really interesting. At the risk of looking silly, as I always do, I don't think it's going to be a barn burner. I don't think it will. I think you're going to have the bull and the matador. And I think there may be times where it threatens to go, but I don't think it will. I think Eubank's going to try and box him on the outside, knowing that he's tough, knowing that Liam's going to have to get to him a lot to break him down. And if he doesn't give him the opportunity to get to him a lot, and he may not have any choice in the matter because Liam is a very good pressure fighter, cuts the ring off in an intelligent way. He's not reckless on the way forward, and he's an underrated boxer, as you mentioned.
But if he does that, then he could just lose by getting outworked.
He could.
He won't get. You don't have to get hurt to lose, do you?
No, for sure. But I think that there's a good chance that we see the Roy Jones Jr. version.
I just
of Chris
don't.
Eubank.
I know exactly what you're saying, but I just think at some point, if it's close, he's going to think to himself, I am not fiddling my way to a defeat.
I don't even think that. I just think he's going to have no choice to fire back.
Yeah.
And also,
There's that.
I don't think you have any problem with that either. By the way,
No, for sure.
I
Still got it in the locker for sure.
You'd have it. I think
Yeah.
you'd have it, but I think you'd be forced to fire shots. I understand what you're saying. I don't think we're ever going to see that kid who throws a million punches all the time. I'm not going to see him ever again. But this time he's going to be forced to have to fire with fire. Otherwise he's going to get beat up. Because Liam will get at you. He'll get to you. He'll slip your shot, theoretically, and he'll fire up through the little shovel there, and he closes the gap. As soon as he gets you, he works Liam, but Liam moves on the body quite well. They're not massive pivots.
There we go. I was wondering.
but he does move around the body quite well. He slides around the target, so he's not going to be right in front. Eubank just can't sit on the ropes like this, waiting to fire back like he does, like he wants to do.
And there is a rematch clause too, so
It's every.
there's a rematch clause. Yeah.
We spoke about it yesterday. It was a
Calla
big
put a
bone, it was a
rematch
big
clause
bone of
in.
contention yesterday. Calla, who I get on well with, and
But if it's a good fight, then seeing it again
No,
would be
fuck,
the
if it's a
worst thing.
non-title fight, why is there a rematch?
No. I prefer that.
Make your mind up. Do you like
No, I hate
clauses or
them.
not?
I hate them. The reason I don't like them is because this don't hold. If these two have a rematch clause, no one gives a shit. It's not for the title. They can just fight each other for the rest of their life. Okay, if they're all good fights, we'll all enjoy it. But it's not holding no one else's career.
That's true. Yeah.
But when the champions have a rematch clause is my issue, because then they look at Fury and Wilder. Anyone else wanted to fight for the WBC title had to wait for like 2.5 years, 3 years, whatever it fucking was. And that's not fair on anyone. And it's not just number 1, 2 and 3. What about all the ones at 15, 20, 30, all them? They all have to wait there in line. And some people then never will lose their...
It just takes the jeopardy away from it. And then, like, if Liam Smith beats Chris Eubank Jr., he should be able to move. I'm sure he'll be happy because he'll get paid well for the second fight. But he could go up and box Alan Hanuli, who didn't set the world alight against Denzel Bentley. One question I had for you, Eubank Jr. had the opportunity to make Andy Clarke a kind of a profit, so to speak, and box Alan Hanuli for that WBO middleweight title. He hasn't. Do you think that says anything about where Chris Eubank Jr. is in his career, where he'd rather box a Conor Benn or a Liam Smith than a...
Yeah,
than
I don't
Janibek?
think he's bothered about winning a world title. Unfortunately for me, because he's been really well ranked and had opportunities. The reason I said it, as I said before, was because he was right up at the top of the rankings with the WBA. I'd heard that the fight between Golovkin and Murata that should have happened last Christmas wasn't going to, and therefore he could box for that title. It didn't happen, and he doesn't look bothered. He's made a lot of money in his career without a world title, and I think he's going to continue to do it. And
bear in mind,
why wouldn't he?
And bear in mind, he was the A side against Ben.
Yeah,
let's not forget.
Yeah.
I know not by much maybe, but he still was, wasn't he? He's a huge name. You got but that's fine. He don't pretend.
No, he doesn't.
I don't mind that. He doesn't pretend. This is what I want to be. I love boxing. I want to be boxing in good fights. And he has been in some good fights.
Yeah.
But money's my god.
ITV box office. He's been. This is
box office against Reynold Quinlan.
Yeah. Exactly. You look at the way it's been. Look at the way that the whole thing's been done, and it's been done really. He was on Channel 5 to kind of build his profile earlier on, and the whole thing's been managed really, really well. And he completely.
Don't forget boxing. We had him.
He's had a great career.
Yeah, and he completely understands the TV side of it. He's really easy to deal with. People might think that he would be difficult, but he's the opposite because he knows this needs to sell, literally. So he will do whatever you want him to do. And he's great in press conferences. He was great yesterday
Yeah.
because he's very, very difficult to outwit. People will try and like forensically pick apart sentences like Groves did with Froch, or pick out double negatives or even anything like that. You can't do that with him. He's got an answer for everything.
And he's so dismissive.
Oh my God.
With almost no saying nothing.
Yeah.
He makes everyone feel...
He's so passionate.
See, you can't straight away, even like when the Ben press conference, like every time Ben opens his mouth, he just go, well, whatever he'd say. And Ben, you see just Ben's neck going like this.
Yeah.
But then with this one on the other side of the room, you got Liam, who has been there, seen it, done it against bigger names, better fighters, and you got the brothers all there too, who are like sat in the fourth or fifth row or whatever, and you just think you've got two proper crews around this fight.
Yeah.
One of the things that came up yesterday was whether or not this was a harder fight than the Conor Benn fight. For me, it's a much more
harder,
difficult fight.
yeah.
Whereas Chris, kind of being Chris, is he's 50% for this one as opposed to 60%, and Conor was unbeaten and he was unpredictable and whatever else. Going to go to you first, Barry. More difficult fight than the Conor Benn fight?
Yeah, of course it is, because you've got a guy with loads of experience who's still, I think he's still fresh, Liam Smith, actually, and he's technically better than Conor Benn. And so, yeah, of course it is. Yeah, it's a much harder fight for Eubank, because the advantages he had over Conor Benn, he doesn't have them, or not clearly have them over a Smith.
And particularly somebody like Conor Benn who would not fought anywhere near the same level as Liam Smith.
And even in Liam Smith's losses, we see how tough that he is. So it's a hard fight. But you can go back to the Liam Williams first fight where he was getting beat. Though on the scorecards he wasn't getting beat, but the rest of us thought he was getting beat. And you look at that, but then he made amends in the second. But then we got the only fight that we got to compare him with, and Eubank had an easier night than the two nights that Smith had with Williams, I would say.
Yeah, he did. Not necessarily the same version of Liam. I don't think at that time Liam Williams.
Liam Williams is a jaded fighter now, unfortunately. Still a good fighter, but we've seen him the other night, and he took some shots.
Punched with him, didn't he?
In an easy win, So, it's a much harder fight. It's a much harder fight. Of course it is. Yeah.
Andy, agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't see how you can make a case for the other side. I mean, there's just nothing logical you can seize on to argue that Conor Benn. We don't know what would happen because it didn't happen, but on paper, it's definitely a harder fight for him. And there's not that, in terms of size, there's probably not much in it, is there? I mean, I know Liam's been at super welterweight practically his whole career, but Chris is, because he boxed at super middleweight, people might think that must mean he's a massive middleweight. No, he's not. But he's just a normal size middleweight, isn't he? Basically. And he walks right. He's just one of those lucky people who walks around close to his weight. Yeah. Close-ish to it. They're never close. Out of shape. Close-ish, yeah. And Smith struggled to make the weight.
It's one of the things that Liam said when we interviewed him yesterday. We would do some throws, but we'll save this for the preview in the new year. He said that he never sees 160 on the scale. He says he goes right past it and makes 154. So a couple of days before the fight is when he obviously starts to do his weight cut, and then he just goes makes 154.
You see him at weigh-ins and he looks like
he's a
poker finger through
big boy for 154. And I think a lot of people talking about the size advantage for Chris Eubank Jr. maybe not looking at the fact that Liam Smith, he's not past it or a jaded fighter by any stretch of the imagination, but he's not 25 anymore.
Yeah,
having to make 154 could be a big advantage for him. Also, kind of going against the point that I was making earlier with Chris Eubank Jr. We've seen him struggle in his fights against people who can control the distance against him. George Groves controlled the distance with power. Billy Joe Saunders can control the distance. It was slippery and awkward. Whereas Liam Smith, kind of for the old Eubank and the Eubank that we've become accustomed to when he was on his way up, coming at Eubank, he looks $1 million. It's just whether or not we get that version of the Eubank or the kind of the more modern version. Right, before we wrap things up, we will, of course, revisit this closer to the time. We can moan about pay-per-view next time. We haven't done enough of that this episode. Andy, going to come to you first. How do you see it playing out, and who is your money on Liam Smith or Chris Eubank Jr.? I know you work in the fight, so you can't bet on it, but
Or maybe comment, actually. It might not be fair to you to comment, I don't think, but you should anyway, you shithouse.
Yeah, exactly. It's for me.
I think just when I look at the pair of them on paper, which is all you can do at this point, really, it's very, very tight, but I might just favour Smith.
Interesting.
I just think he's better. He's a better boxer, I think, than Eubank. But yeah, it's really tight.
Barry?
Yeah, I've already said publicly on, I think it was you guys in Abu Dhabi, but that I think Smith.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be tight and be done to the stretch, but I think I think without a little bit more extra weight that he can walk around with, I'm going to make 155. I think he'll be he works hard, and if he can, I think he's going to make Eubank. He's going to make Eubank work hard, and he hasn't worked that hard for a long time. I think they'll be Smith. It'll be a tight one. I think he's going to shock Eubank. Whatever Eubank says, I know he's going to be ready. He knows it's a hard fight, but he'll think he'll be able to hurt Smith or push him back, or if he hits him to the body, you can drop him. You think, all the vulnerabilities that he think he might have, and he won't. Yeah, but I'm not sold on it, by the way. But I do think Smith.
Smith Eubank 2 next year. Then we're on the way.
Yeah, if that's what happens, then that will happen. That will happen.
It's great. It's great, isn't it? Like this should just be like rematch clauses should just be a thing. I shouldn't even have to mention it. And then there'd be trilogy clauses.
Anyway, that's all we have time for this week on the ID Boxing Preview Show. As always, thanks very much to our esteemed panel of guests, Andy Clarke and DAZN Bets, Barry Jones. Thanks very much for stopping by and listening to us ramble and moan about pay-per-view prices and whatnot. We look forward to catching up with you next time.